Let's talk about what this all means here for the market going forward here, because we had that econ data. We had the stronger than expected earnings from many of the tech giants over the last several trading days. We want to bring in Allan Boomer. He's the Momentum Advisors Chief Investment Officer. And Allan, there's a lot to chew on here that we got out this week. Let's just start with earnings, because we got the better than expected numbers from Amazon after the bell yesterday. Apple and Facebook were both out earlier this week. When you see that type of momentum into some of these names that have been winners over the past year, can that continue?
Yeah, it's a great question. And first of all, thanks for having me. You know, when you think about what's happened in stocks this year, we've seen a little bit of a reversal. A lot of the companies that did really well last year started to give back some gains this year. There was this expectation of the reopening trade, which would mean that all of these tech stocks that were really the darlings of 2020 would fall back. Well, now what you're seeing is a little different story, because the earnings of these companies is very, very strong. I think what's emerging today is sort of a new post-COVID economy where you can have a coexistence of some traditional value stocks right alongside some growth stocks.
Well, I want to get your take then on what could happen in the second half of the year, because we saw a lot of these companies admit that a lot of demand was pulled forward. Facebook said that they expect growth to strongly decelerate in the third and fourth quarters. So everything's looking pretty good for the first half. What about the back half of the year?
Another great question. You know, I think the market is priced almost to perfection, right? Like we've priced in a good vaccine rollout. We've priced in a strong reopening to the economy. I'm a little concerned about the second half of the year. I think it's possible that in the short term, earnings have basically peaked. And things will, you know, this is a great quarter, but I don't know that the rest of the year will be quite as strong. One of the things that I think you'll start to see is that we've got a labor shortage in the United States. We talk about the jobs that were lost during. We don't really talk about the fact that there's a lot of companies that have a lot of vacancies that are outstanding. And it's because of a number of reasons, right? There's a number of people who are caring for sick folks at home. There are people who are afraid to go back to work for fear of getting sick. You have folks that are getting some nice benefits from unemployment and from the stimulus package. And also folks that just don't need to make as much money because they've been able to cut their expenses by not going out so much, right? So I think you'll start to see in the second half, particularly companies that rely on labor, you'll start to see some issues around a labor shortage for sure.
So, Allan, are you saying that we could potentially see a pullback here in the second half of the year? And I guess how big of a pullback could that be?
Yeah, I don't know that we'll get a pullback. I just don't think earnings will be as strong. The reason I don't think there'll be as big of a pullback, think about the macro factors. You have really low interest rates, which means that if I were to go and look for some other alternative like bonds, I'm not really getting paid very much. We also have a tremendous amount of fiscal stimulus that's still in the market, right? Like we looked at the fiscal stimulus from the last COVID package to this COVID package. It adds up to over $4 trillion on a per capita basis. That's about $12,000 per person. So you've got a tremendous amount of fiscal stimulus. These dollars are in the economy. Folks are saving more money than they've ever saved. I think there's a lot of other factors that'll keep the market going strong in the second half of the year.
Allan Boomer, always great to speak with you. Momentum Advisors Chief Investment Officer.